And now I direct those questions and our attention to Jared. Hi, Jared.
Hi, Vivian. Good to see you and everyone else this evening. Looking forward to talking about this issue. It's come up a little bit here and there in some of our previous dialogues, and certainly the issue of technology more broadly, and how that kind of interacts with this idea of ecological civilization that we're working on here together, and sharing ideas, sharing visions and inspiration across our two cultures here. Yeah, so just as a little bit of background on this topic and why I'm presenting on it, it's a huge topic currently. Everyone is talking about artificial intelligence, and especially these large language models, the machine learning that is kind of behind the particular artificial intelligences that you may be familiar with, ChatGPT as a sort of text chatbot, but then these image generating models as well. It's the same basic technology behind these in terms of using large language models to kind of map statistical relationships between data and be able to go from a prompt that you as the user put in to an end product, whether that is another text response to the text you fed the language model, or whether that text is transformed into some other medium like the pixels of an image. So a lot of talk about this, and there's definitely a ton of technological innovation going on with these technologies in the artificial intelligence space right now. So a lot of people are very excited about the possibility of can we use these new artificial intelligence technologies to improve things in terms of the environmental crisis, the climate crisis, increase efficiency with things like renewable energies and carbon reducing technologies, batteries. How can we use the AI technologies to reduce our emissions and to be kind of more in tune with the climate, and be able to study it better so we can understand how these things can be best combated. So a lot of excitement, but I think there's been a lot of oversight. I think we are insufficiently tuned in to some of the kind of broader contexts of these technologies, some of their how they function, and some of their ramifications. So that's why I wanted to bring this topic up tonight, and I will pull up just a little bit of a slideshow that I've put together here. To bring in some data, some figures as well to help kind of get the conversation going here. So basically 6 topics I'm gonna cover tonight. A major one that has already been brought up is this concern about the energy that these large language model artificial intelligence technologies have behind them. In addition to that, there's resource consumption as well, water, heavy metals, or rare earth metals, especially the things that are needed to cool data centers and make the hardware chips that are responsible for all the processing that these large language models are doing. There's something called the Jevons paradox that I think is a really crucial piece here, which basically is this idea that when you have an emitting technology and you're able to increase its efficiency, so let's say, oh, we are able to increase the efficiency of gasoline engines. Oh, you think, okay, this can help reduce our energy consumption. We don't need to be using as much gasoline now because it's more efficient. And actually, in the real world, the opposite often happens. The energy is now cheaper. If the gas engine is more efficient, it's easier for more people to use it. And so very often we see the opposite happening, and we're seeing more energy consumption of fossil fuels as efficiency goes up. So I want to see how that could factor into even the kind of positive technological advances that AI can provide. And that's another major kind of aspect I want to get into. What sort of innovation and scientific and engineering sort of contributions might AI be able to make, and what are sort of the limits of that? I also am curious about how our own kind of human creativity is kind of both at the base of these AI technologies and how it differs from what these sort of statistical recombining algorithms in the large language models are able to do. Then I'm going to close out with a bit of a discussion on ecological intelligence more broadly, how human beings fit into a larger ecological picture, and how we're more similar to other organisms than we are to machines of any kind, but definitely in this context, these large language model AIs in particular. So getting into the energy use piece to begin, these technologies take an incredible amount of energy to power them. So a big part of this is these large language models require incredible amounts of data to sort of run effectively. So you just have just incredible storehouses of text data that is basically tagged to kind of let the AI know what kind of content this is. And then by just using such an incredible amount of data, it's able to kind of piece together like what the relationships are between these sorts of things. So you've probably seen on your smartphone that when you're texting a friend in part of the text keyboard, right above that, it'll show you suggestions for the word you might want to be typing next. Your phone is paying attention to the words you've typed previously, and it's giving you suggestions about what it thinks you might want to type next. And that's actually exactly the same kind of technology that these large language models are. And they're able to work just by having access to just a huge amount of data and then being able to use some statistical algorithms to predict what might come next. But this is a super energy intensive process to be able to do all these statistical calculations of these relationships between these different data points. It just takes an incredible amount of electricity. So it's not sort of a it's so easy to just be on the ChatGPT website and talking back and forth with it and having it give some helpful insights or reformat some of your paragraphs or give a summary of something you read. And it's super easy to just get totally immersed in the very kind of responsive interface, and it's very similar to talking with a human being. And in such a context, your friend who you're chatting with online, they don't need to be eating 10 hamburgers a minute to respond to you, but that's sort of what is required in the context of these generative AIs. There's an incredible amount of energy usage behind these. So it's really important that we keep this in mind when we're thinking about, oh, okay, so these technologies might be able to have scientific contributions and improve efficiency, contribute to research into climate issues, et cetera. That doesn't come at no cost. It's coming at an incredible expense of energy. So, and as these technologies become more pervasive and people are wanting them for more different things, certainly companies are now integrating AI into all their products, all their websites. People are trying to use it for new uses. I use it for graphic design in certain contexts. So more and more people are wanting to use this, but that means our energy consumption as human beings is increasing as we are using these technologies. And I mean, our energy production is currently not ecologically sustainable at all. So any increase in human energy consumption is definitely worsening our climate situation currently and deserves a lot of scrutiny and skepticism. And here's just a small factoid. The AI industry has the fastest growing carbon footprint currently. So this is something that is just skyrocketing in demand and influence, and just how pervasive it is in our society. So if we're thinking about some of these metrics like carbon footprint that are really important for considering ecological impact and sustainability, this is definitely a concerning statistic. Here's some sort of predictive graphs here of the AI powered demand. And so you see at the top there, it mentions AI training and inference. So the training is kind of the initial build of these models, these large language models that, like ChatGPT, like the DALI image generator program. So all that training, all that getting the statistical relationships mapped out takes a ton of energy, and then that actually running a specific prompt on that model then also takes a lot of energy. So here's a prediction from Wells Fargo about just how much energy these technologies are going to be consuming in the coming years. And you see how this curve is exponential. It's going up steeper and steeper to more and more terawatt hours. So currently, our current year, we aren't seeing too much compared to what is predicted, even though already the amount we're seeing is very, very significant, as we'll see. So data centers are sort of the main nexus for these algorithms, for these artificial intelligence technologies. And here's another graph showing predictions for the increase in electricity demand from data centers. And you see how very much increasing, even on the low trajectory. We're seeing a pretty significant hike in the amount of electricity consumed here. So definitely something to be concerned about. So a major source I'm going to be using for some of the information here. One piece is the obscene energy demands of AI, published in the New Yorker, but there's also a report from the Civilization Research Network, I believe, that has a lot of information I'm going to be pulling from here. So I'm listing sources for any of these facts and quotes here at the bottom. So if Google were to integrate generative AI into every search, its electricity use would rise to something like 29 billion kilowatt hours per year. This is more than is consumed by many countries, including Kenya, Guatemala, and Croatia. So this is not I mean, Google search, I wouldn't even think of that as something that's electricity or energy intensive. But if it was a search to generative AI, it would be incredibly energy intensive. And that would mean that simple searches from humanity in a year would be taking as much electricity as many of these countries. So I think that's kind of helps contextualize just how intensive of the energy demand these technologies have. In the US, data centers now account for about 4% of electricity consumption, and that figure is expected to climb to 6% by 2026. So increasing by 150% in the next couple years. So that's really significant. Is that going to be coming from green energy? Probably not currently, with the ratios of clean to fossil fuel energy we currently have. It's been estimated that ChatGPT is responding to something like 200 million requests per day, and in doing so is consuming more than 500,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. For comparison's sake, the average US household consumes 29 kilowatt hours a day. So it comes out to something like the ChatGPT prompts are taking the same amount of electricity that 17,000 households in America use in a day. And Americans use a lot of energy. We are not conservative in this regard. So just another figure to help contextualize how significant the energy usage is. And this is in a day, so that's a lot of households worth of energy for a single day of usage of this one AI technology. So in addition to the resources or the energy themselves, the electricity, the power, there's also a concern about the resources required to use these AI technologies. Booming demand for AI computational capacity has led to a recent surge in demand for necessary infrastructure in the form of data centers, which necessarily have intrinsically high electricity, water, and material requirements. These are very intensive buildings. They're big. They are large data centers, and there's all these servers and GPUs. It's kind of the big thing for these data centers to run these AI technologies. That requires a lot of these chips, these silicon chips, and all sorts of rare earth metals, precious metals, and those don't just come from nowhere. Those come from extractive mining, often in the global south. And so again, here we have concerns of how this kind of international capitalism is entrenching these power relationships between the wealthy and powerful global north and these historically colonized and disadvantaged nations in the global south. And the demand for AI is continuing to feed into that and outsource some of these harmful environmental effects to places where this mining is happening. And then all the revenue from the capital of these AI companies is not going back to those locations that have been ecologically devastated by mining. It's continuing to get concentrated in the global north, and even there, it's continuing to get concentrated among a very wealthy elite. So very concerning how this technology intersects with global capitalism and wealth inequality, as well as these environmental concerns. We estimate about 965,000 metric tons of mining rock waste was produced just for the GPUs to train OpenAI's GPT-3. These products don't come from nowhere. You need to get the metals out of the earth, and it's a really significant amount that is happening just for a single company's single model here. So again, cause for caution, concern, and skepticism. Though energy, water, and material consumption concerns apply broadly to digital technologies and cloud computing, artificial intelligence in particular poses a distinct concern due to the scale and intensity of consumption involved, as well as more particular hardware requirements, notably graphics processing units, GPUs. So this is not like all other digital technologies, that is to say. It is all the more intensive, all the more requiring of these resources that are needed to be obtained through mining and other ecologically devastating forms of extraction. So here's a helpful graph to hammer in the point. Even if we got our energy efficiency reduced by 64 times so that the consumption was negligible to where it is now, and say we transferred all of this to green rather than fossil fuel energy sources, you are still going to see all these resources consumed. There's no way around it. These technologies are material. They require things like the wafers in these GPUs. They require chemicals and gases. It's just there is something industrial behind these technologies. Ultimately, they come from a specific manufacturing process, and if there continues to be demand and increasing demand, then there's going to be increasing resource use in this domain. And that's not something you can sort of efficiency away and just reduce by technological advances. Some of it, maybe a little bit, but electricity makes heat, so you need to cool your servers and hardware down somehow, and water is a major way to do that. And so these are sort of basic aspects of the physics of these technologies that you sort of can't avoid. This is an important sort of differentiator as well when thinking about the resource uses and environmental impacts of a particular company. So these are called different scopes of emission. So the scope one is sort of the coal power plant itself. These are the or your company's vehicles. These are your really direct emissions as an operation. You have the scope 2 emissions, which are you're buying electricity from the grid as Google. That electricity was generated somehow, and it caused some amount of emissions if it was through, say, coal plants, or even something like solar or wind. Again, there you have metals that need to be extracted in order to build these things. And so those kind of indirect energy consumptions that are required for a technology company to run definitely need to be factored in. But there's also these third scope emissions, scope 3 emissions, that are a little more subtle, but are really pervasive. And this is where the things like the mineral and rare earth metal extraction and all these like water usage and infrastructure. I mean, if you're building a data center, you need all kinds of infrastructure to make that possible. And that needs to be factored into how we're considering the environmental impacts of these technologies. So let's talk a little bit about the Jevons paradox that I mentioned earlier. And a basic way to sum this up is that increases in efficiency can ultimately lead to more, not less, energy consumption, which, yeah, it's paradoxical. You think, okay, if we don't need as much of it because it's more efficient, that we're going to be using less of it. But actually, the opposite happens very often. Historically, whilst renewables are composing a growing share of overall energy production, we're using more renewable energy sources nowadays than we were previously when we relied almost exclusively on fossil fuels. These are not replacing fossil fuels, but simply expanding the overall amount of energy that is produced. We are consuming more fossil fuels nowadays than ever before, even though we are also using a good bit of renewable energies now. The renewables did not take the place of fossil fuel consumption. Fossil fuel consumption continued to increase, and we added renewables on top. So a very concerning trend that we aren't seeing a replacement, a switch to renewables happen. We are continuing to see an expansion of the fossil fuel industry. So are we going to be able to see AI technologies contribute in a way that doesn't continue to reinforce this kind of ever expanding total growth mindset, rather than a mindset to reducing usage? We might need to rely on something other than just technological increases in efficiency to make that happen. All right, so this is a bit of a extended quote here, but I think it helps really break things down a little bit, because this is a little counterintuitive here. In the standard formulation of the Jevons paradox, increased energy efficiency tends to increase energy consumption by two means. First, increased energy efficiency makes the use of energy relatively cheaper, thus encouraging increased use. This is the direct rebound effect of the Jevons paradox. So if it only costs me $10 to drive my car now because the engine more efficiently uses the gasoline, I'm actually going to start driving more with gasoline because it costs less for me to travel. So it's kind of a basic supply and demand economics here. The price has shifted, and so the responses of consumers shifts as well, and increased consumption basically happens as a result. So there's a second, subtler, indirect effect for rebound here, which is that increased energy efficiency leads to increased economic growth, which pulls up energy use for the whole economy. So the pie is growing, people are doing more things, empowered by cheaper energy, and that in turn leads to more energy consumption. It applies to energy efficiency and resource efficiency. So these are things we see not just with electricity, but it's certainly something we've seen with agriculture, increases in efficiency there, and all sorts of other sectors. So we're very stuck in this kind of infinite growth perspective of capitalism here. And so instead of increased efficiency leading to us being able to do with less and have less of an impact, it has the exact opposite effect, and we end up expanding our consumption all the more. So if Jevons paradox occurs, improving computing's energy efficiency may contribute to increasing energy consumption. So thinking about, okay, like if we can reduce the energy required to power these AIs, okay, that can reduce the environmental impact. It might not. It might have the exact opposite effect. As these technologies get cheaper and more easy to do because they're more efficient and less energy intensive, we might use them more and more and more and more and end up consuming more energy. So using AI itself to reduce emissions by using these technologies for scientific and engineering sort of purposes may trigger this Jevons paradox. It may backfire in a number of ways. So technology advancements can lead to more carbon emissions by driving output growth. So this is exactly what we're talking about. If we use these AIs to make things more efficient, are we just going to continue this same cycle we've been in of, well, that means more and more growth can happen, or are we actually going to try to make do with less? It seems like without some kind of systemic change, we're just going to keep down this road. So actually using AI to reduce emissions, make things more efficient, may not have any positive ecological impact. AI advancements could reduce energy costs and energy service prices. See what's happened in electricity and power systems, but this in turn may increase consumption of energy in other sectors. So lots of concerns about efficiency here. It's not necessarily going to be a positive ecologically, even if AI can really contribute to increased efficiency. So here's what I was saying. We are seeing more fossil fuel consumption than ever in human history currently. And gas as well, gas, oil, and coal. Renewables and green energy does take up a larger share of our environment or our energy production and consumption now, but the sort of sheer amount of fossil fuels has increased. So this is not a positive situation. So here's a crucial point, I think. So these large language models, they require huge amounts of data. That data didn't come from nowhere either. That is content, materials produced by human beings, by human intelligence. So when we're feeding all this text or all these artworks and photographs to these machine learning algorithms, those are things that ultimately human beings initially produced using our own faculties for intelligence. These, without all that data that came from human beings, these technologies simply would not work. So they depend on us. We are kind of the bedrock of these technologies. And you may have heard some of the stories about how as AI has continued to expand, some content that was AI generated has gotten fed back into the training data of these algorithms. And once that starts happening, the output starts to break down. You can't keep stacking AI on AI generated content and have coherent results come out. So This is not something that magically produces coherence and creativity and intelligence, but is parasitic on human creativity and intelligence. And so it's really important that we keep our minds sharp, keep our creativity, because these things cannot replace those aspects of human beings. And if we lose contact with innate human intelligence and creativity, these technologies are not able to progress and can even break down. So outsourcing too much of our intelligence to these technologies is a really not a good idea at all, and will have some serious long-term consequences. This is an important point considering the kind of scientific usages of these AI technologies I've been mentioning. Any true breakthroughs in science that require fundamental advances in theory, such as theoretical physics, cannot be done via AI. In short, science itself cannot be automated. We can use AI in the context of particular research programs, and it can be helpful in various ways there. But the breakthroughs, these big kind of discoveries, these big eureka moments can't come from the AI themselves. There's always going to be sort of a human input and some human creativity behind these things that ultimately is kind of guiding these paradigm shifts that can really cause like huge changes in things that have kind of huge implications. So we can't outsource too much. These can be used as tools, but we can't just create a science machine that will just start magically churning out discoveries and increases in efficiency and all these sorts of things. So whilst machine learning, various types of neural networks, and in some limited cases, generative AI can be useful in very specific use cases for environmental, climate-related, and adjacent research. See the accelerating material science. For the most part, AI is fundamentally inherently limited in how much it can accelerate scientific and technological progress. So one of this report from the Civilization Research Institute talked about some of the very real kind of positives AI could have, things like being able to develop new chemical formulas and structures for concrete, which is like, I think something like 4 or 5% of like global emissions is concrete. And wow, it's like been able to do some really impressive stuff in that context and make some much less resource and energy intensive formulations for concrete, cement. That's great. And that's the kind of thing that in certain small domains we might be able to see. But if we only focus on that and not kind of this larger picture of, okay, how much AI energy did it take to get to that result? How much was human creativity of the scientists using this AI and their own kind of expertise to know how to use it? How much was that involved? Is an increase in efficiency and concrete going to ultimately increase our usage of concrete in a way that has more environmental impacts? These are the kinds of things we need to be thinking about when we're engaging with AI and thinking about how it might be ecologically beneficial. So shifting to a little more of a philosophical register at this point, I want to think a bit about human beings and the ways that we are dissimilar. We are not like these large language models. We are different than ChatGPT in pretty important ways. So human beings are not machines. We are not, our experience, our thinking is not algorithmic calculation. It is not pure statistical inference based on data sets. This is just not how brains work and not how biological organisms work. We also, our human insight and creativity does not depend on energy and resource consumption in the same kind of intensive way that that ChatGPT does, for example. Of course, I need to eat and have water and consume a certain amount of resources to keep my biological organism healthy and in a kind of okay shape. But I do not need to, as I was saying earlier, eat 10 hamburgers a minute to be able to produce the language to chat with a friend. And even someone, say, like Albert Einstein, one of these great minds of humanity, who was able to shift our paradigms and contribute just a staggering amount to human knowledge in a number of domains. He didn't need to consume personally more calories than someone else. This is just not our sort of the insightfulness of our output does not depend on higher and higher and higher energy consumption as human beings. But currently, the AI field, the way they are trying to improve these programs and these technologies is by just increasing the scope of the training data fed into this. There's of course some other research programs as well, to try and introduce some more kind of novel configurations for these technologies. But a huge amount of it is just make it bigger, make it bigger, make it bigger. And yeah, we're seeing incremental improvements with more and more training data. And I mean, if you think even just in the past few years, when we were first playing around with the AI image generators, they were making images that were recognizable, but very distorted, very rudimentary. It was very fuzzy and low resolution. And wow, now these image generators can do some very photorealistic stuff, some very impressive and complex generation. And mostly that's been achieved by just amping up the amount of data and the tagging of the data and training these models. And that's been hugely, hugely, hugely energy intensive. So this is just not how human beings work. We do not need to amp up our energy consumption as biological creatures to achieve the heights of intelligence and creativity. So why are we trying to outsource our intelligence and creativity to a technology that does require that? Real question there. Big reason for this difference: we are embodied beings in an environment, and we are interdependent with other beings. ChatGPT, part of the reason that it will give you responses that are entirely inaccurate, it'll confidently tell you something that sounds right, and you check it against verified information. It's like, oh, that was actually completely incorrect. It is not in contact with any reality. It does not have a being in a world that it can kind of navigate to have its perceptions. It doesn't have any perceptions technically, to have its output checked against a world in the way that human beings do. If I have an idea about whether or not I have milk in my fridge, and I say, of course I have milk. I go to the fridge, open it up, no milk. Okay, now I know that I don't, because I'm in relationship with this world. I know I was wrong. ChatGPT, all it has is access to data and statistical inference based on that data about what kind of output it should produce. It's not conscious. It is not really intelligence. There's not thinking in the way that we think and like mull something over, consider various possibilities. It is pure data in, goes through this complex noise generating algorithm, and then data out. So it's rote. There's no interiority. It's not thinking. It just produces an output based on an input and the complex statistical procedure in the middle. So there's very, very important ways that we're dissimilar to these algorithms. And a lot of the time, these major AI leaders, someone like Sam Altman at OpenAI, these visionary sort of CEOs, entrepreneurs, they think very much in this sort of way and are like, oh, we are basically like a large language model. And it's just not philosophically a strong point. There's very, very many ways that our intelligence is quite distinct from that of the large language models. And thinking of ourselves as in this kind of reduced mechanical way can have some real consequences. And that's what you see with some of the philosophies that are coming out of these AI communities. That's very transhumanist and trying to merge humanity with machine intelligence and in some very concerning ways. So this is a little more of the kind of science-y fiction side of things, and a little more speculative than some of the stuff previously, but definitely a concern as well. I think it's important we preserve a kind of unique vision of our humanity, and that's valuable, that we wouldn't want to just kind of merge people's consciousness into machines because these rich white guys in California think it's the best idea. So, all right, to close up here, I think big takeaways: trying to tackle the ecological crisis entirely through technology will never succeed. Even if ChatGPT and these large language models could do amazing things with increasing our efficiency so we could reduce our energy consumption, that's probably not what's going to happen, as we've seen with the Jevons paradox. There's just a larger scale systemic changes that we would need in addition to technology improvements to actually turn the tide here ecologically. So we need to have focus on personal, cultural, social, economic, and political transformations. We can't just hope that we can innovation our way out of destroying the planet because these new technologies are impressive. They are impressive. We are all pretty mesmerized by some of the things these large language model AIs can do. But by focusing too much on these impressive technologies, we can get distracted from all these other transformations we really, really need to focus on, because the technology itself will not alone be something that can really address the environmental crisis, and it may be contributing to it all the more. So we need to be more critical. We need to think broader than the technological, and we need to think of the technological contextualized in these other systems. It's also important thinking of the ways human beings are more similar to other organisms rather than machines. So we are in this complex web of life, and actually maybe there's things for us to learn from plant life, from mushrooms, from all kinds of ecological niches. And maybe it's more important that we listen to the other intelligences that already exist ecologically, and try to come into harmony with these other crucial intelligences that already exist, rather than keeping in this mode of human beings need to be managing everything. We have dominion over the environment, and we need to continue to fix things. We're tinkering. We got to use our technologies to get this right. Well, actually, maybe there's already a lot of harmony that comes from ecological being itself. And so maybe a big thing, instead of trying to do this complex technological fixing of things, maybe we need to step back, let other forms of intelligence be intelligent. They are intelligent in ways that these large language model AIs are not. There's an intelligence to the interconnectedness of ecosystems that can maintain a homeostasis. That's a real intelligence. It is embodied. It is in contact with a world, with an external world. It's interdependent. And so how can we step back? How can we get out of this mode of okay, let's implement all these technologies to fix everything. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem of this hubris of human beings to think we can understand, and with the right understanding, we can control and with precision execute these alterations of an environment to just fix things. But there's all kinds of interconnectedness here that is you can't be reduced to computation and algorithmic intelligence and a narrow understanding of rationality, but we can come in relationship with it in real ways. So that's my call to action. Stop fixating on technological fixes here. Return to broader ecological context and make sure to understand the technological things we are doing in a more holistic and interconnected sort of way. So, alrighty. Thank you for listening to me ramble for so long.
Thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you. This is wonderful and quite shocking as well. And then I appreciate some of the data that you point out and some sources. I'm definitely going to read more. And now I would like to invite Xiaochuan, if you're here, to come online. And you're free to ask questions and to share your thoughts as well. Do you have a presentation or you want to share, or just some thoughts?
So I guess unfortunately I don't have I don't have an awesome slide, but I'll be very happy to sharing some of the observations and insights. Obviously, I had a chat with Jared, I think like 2 days ago. So like it's super interesting, and very happy to see like some of the stuff like reflected in the slide. I kind of want to start my kind of like story. I mean, kind of want to start my part from the story. It was last year, in Chiang Mai, because I 706 or 706 also like like engage in other intersections. So like we were in this like blockchain. We were in this like blockchain gathering in Chiang Mai. And that was the time that I ended up meeting this like this person like who is actually from 706 London. So like his affiliation is like he works in like private equity and stuff. So like, and we were just like chatting about our kind of like understanding of related stuff. And he was mentioning like, okay, he's like he actually kind of lead this like carbon sequestration project for his investment entity like back in the UK. Like he's the his company is actually kind of like the first one to engage in like carbon sequestration and carbon trading scheme in the UK. And he mentioned like, okay, he picks this particular place in Scotland kind of like to build his modeling calculation. And because I like myself was also kind of like engaging some of like the carbon trading kind of like research project back in Kenya. That was like last year. So like I'm very curious on like what did he do. So like we kind of have some chat, and I mean surprisingly or not surprisingly, right? Like as we know, carbon sequestration works way better for a primary forest compared to a secondary forest. But he particularly built his model upon this secondary forest in Scotland. So like and not surprisingly, right, like he construct his model assessment based on the secondary forest, because singular species tree present a much linear model of calculation, and much easier to be integrated into a financial model, as a monetized product. So like, and because I myself was obviously, I mean like I'm not an expert in the field, but as a consultant, I do kind of like I do observe and trying to see the differences and relationships between things. So like, and I was kind of like into the GIS, right? Geospatial information, a bit. So like, I was just asking like, okay, so like, did you do X, Y, Z as a, like observational, metric? I mean, it's basically based on satellite data that you can actually make an inference of the carbon sequestration. And he said, no, he doesn't. And it made me wonder, like this is like kind of like, this person proudly present like, okay, his company is working on, probably one of the, earliest product on like carbon sequestration and carbon trading in the UK, innovative enough, but like you see this kind of like astonishing level of detachment, of a financial reality, a digital reality, and ecological reality. So I think that to me, like this kind of like points out, like like when we are, I mean, we are, I mean, I guess, but unfortunately, or let's knock on wood, like we are in this like paradigm where like data governance or data analytic kind of like become the driving forces of like decision making, like economic decision making, or like socio-economic decision making, like considering, or like, or like like uh socio-cultural economical decision making, like if we consider algorithmic recommendation system in place. So like I think like this is kind of like like this and this is like what I pretty much agree with what Jared said. Like this is like the place we're actually seeing like, okay, like non-human intelligence, or let's say artificial intelligence. I mean, artificial intelligence in a broader sense, like not necessarily like AI inference, but like it's like artificially constructed intelligence, are not necessarily like making making things better. And I think like this is how I kind of see that, okay, that as a organization on the ground, like 706 or 706, like it's like we kind of seeing like, okay, this is a problem, but ironically across the tech sector in China, or let's say like across the tech sector in Asia, like two of the like I can almost say like two of the entities, or two of the industries particularly interested in 706, to a point that they're wanting to kind of like fund some of the initiative. Like one of the sector obviously is the crypto and blockchain sector, right? Representing decentralization and stuff. Another sector is AI. So like I think like that's like I mean like seeing the whole implications, seeing the whole paradox of like how AI is like undermining a lot of like the aspect, but like on the ground like you're actually seeing like, okay, some of the people that's wanting to listen to us, some of the people that's actually wanting to collaborate with us are actually those folks from the AI industry. It's kind of like, are we accelerating our own destruction? Like in a sense, like in a sense, like, okay,
Sounds like another kind of mining.
yeah, right. Because I think like for the investment track, or let's say for the AI track, like I think like you can kind of see like I mean of course like people from those sectors are obviously very interested in youth involvement and stuff. Like I was just in a hackathon in Shanghai as a judge actually last week. It's super interesting to see like like how those like like teenagers or high schoolers came out with like different type of projects on AI, on how are they trying to come out with an approach. But on the other end, you're seeing like investment people, you're seeing like venture capital people, like they're kind of like having a very ruthless, very straightforward focus on deal flow. And this is the irony of it, because I mean, in a metrical system, let's say like in a current tech incubator system, like, you're not necessarily achieving, a deal flow that's perfectly, reflecting, like the person you want to invest in. And you have to kind of like rely, I mean, not necessarily rely, but you kind of want to work with a network that's actually holding the human intuition and human intelligence to actually achieve, this like magical result of like optimization of the deal flow, right? Like to kind of like make you easier to identify the potential investor, or let's say uh potential kind of like project to invest in. And I think like this kind of like, I mean, this is probably, right, another form of paradox. Like, okay, like as a open source use network, as an open source use organization, you kind of like obviously like especially in the context of like contemporary setups, like um to maintain the organization, like in the sense like to be able to thrive. So like there's another example actually I want to say, we probably kind of like know, like, right, like last week, actually last Saturday, was the Chinese Valentine's Day, right, the Qixi. So I was in 706 Shanghai. So like obviously one of the things we do for 706 is that we do events, because like we kind of see like events is how you kind of connect different networks, or let's say the event is how you actually activate the social ecosystem on the ground. So like we were doing this event, and we actually like, because like, right, oftentimes we get like, different 706 like folks, different 706 fellas, traveling around. We got this like couple, actually, like they were Chinese, but they stay in the States. And so like they were just visiting Shanghai, they're just visiting 706 Shanghai as a couch surfer. It got super interesting because it was the Chinese Valentine's Day. And we said, okay, let's do some events. And then, and I said, okay, we want to do some events on machine learning and astronomy. I'm like, okay. Was that, because in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, does that gonna work? It's in Shanghai, it's the Valentine's Day, are you gonna throw something on machine learning and physics? It turned out like, a lot of people on that day, like they're not interested to go on a date. They're not interested to actually, like do the whatever, like traditional, or constructed, um, Chinese Valentine's Day thing. Like we got like 40 something people come to a physics seminar, and actually like in our promotional poster, we say, oh yes, the love will let you down, but not the quantum physics. Like, and then yeah, so like it's kind of interesting, like, because as a youth network, like we obviously want to, make exciting things. I mean, it has been 12 years already. Like I'm not the youngest person within the 706. So like we kind of like want to make the ball game we want to keep the ball game going. So like and it's kind of interesting, like AI is obviously, a very, like AI grabs people's attention, and as events, or community builder, like we do want to merge those kind of things. So like on the practical level, like on the practical, like community building level, like we actually trying to, we're trying our best to embrace AI, into our portfolio. Like, so like one end is obviously like working with, whoever that has an interest to do the incubation, with us. But like this is actually like another thing that we are trying to do. Like, so like last year 706 kind of like came out with this like it was a bunch of people, I mean, actually including myself, like we came up with this idea called Creator House. So like it's a co-living project where, we will be able to stay in a place probably like, for a week or two, and we were trying to, like brainstorming ideas. We will we live together, and I think probably right for human intelligence, like living together is quite crucial. So like our first creator house was held in Istanbul last year. So that was like during the Ethereum Global Developer conference. So like it was a very interesting 2 weeks. Like you actually get, I mean, mainly a bunch of Chinese tech developer, but also like, you know, venture capital people, like they just say, they stayed in this 4-story Airbnb unit in the, in downtown Istanbul. And like we were just like having a lot of like interrelation, so a lot of social scene took place in this temporary pop-up settlement. And like it's super interesting to kind of see like how human intelligence, or let's say how humans just interact like human beings, over dinner or stuff, like and like um we look at and after that, like we have like multiple sessions of creator house across, I mean, mainly across China. But one of the creator house that I am working on right now is actually an AIGC creator house. Like you may ask, like, do I hold a optimistic opinion on that? Like I think like the interesting thing is like when you're on the grassroots level, like you kind of want to, like design a project that will have a lot of people to come. But on the other hand, right, like you wanted to kind of like outsource something like that will enable more dialogue. So like we purposely designed this like AIGC creator house in the sense like we kind of know, it's probably not the best, it's not the most perfect approach to do research on AI, but like, okay, if 90% of the university students, like are using large language model for stuff, like okay, it's like might as well just try to embrace it in a sense like, okay, let's try to design a social research, or let's say let's design an issue research project. But let's say, okay, we are not gonna ask you that, okay, you have to write stuff. No. But let's say like we will kind of like preserve our brainstorming capacity, or let's say we will preserve our stuff, but we will let the AI to kind of like do the writing job, do the PowerPoint, and we kind of like intend to make a selling point out of that. So this is a kind of a content hackathon that,
Pretty
okay, yeah. So like this is one of the things like we are trying to build, like, and I think like um I think like deep down, I think like this is obviously, like this kind of like also reflect, some like deeper issues in the sense like we might not necessarily being able to provide the answer. However, we do want to build up certain resiliencies for the community in a sense like, and I think like really as a form of social economical resiliency that I mean, right, interestingly, resiliency eventually, I mean, initially is a ecological concept, right? So like, so like we kind of want to build this form of resiliency, and I think that perhaps like for grassroots organization like 706 is that what's crucial is that we should probably at least build up this form of like technological resiliency, like at least okay, let's try to let's try to learn what is what, let's try to use what is what. And in that case, we might be able to say, okay, we might be able to come up with alternatives. I mean, not necessarily like an immediate solution, but at least we will be able to come up with, okay, this is how we are going to do stuff. But let's say, okay, using AI to do this, it maybe in a more open sourced way, maybe in a more community engaged way is probably slightly better, or at least, fundamentally different from, just using an AI product, let's say from OpenAI and stuff. Yeah, sorry, that was a very, that was, the ending up becoming
No,
unstructured,
cool. Oh, that's wonderful. I just wanted to share an observation that the examples that you shared and the how friends in Qilingliu or gatherings and brainstorming and preserving this resilience, preserving this active interrelational relationships building. And this is, I see as the sparks and it's the key for us to move forward. Very much like this conversation right now, and this cannot be trained by AI or this cannot be led by AI. But I wonder, how do, from your community, do you observe similar concerns as Jared has shared? AI and technology use, its ecological and environmental impact. Do you think you're within your community, is there one narrative like technology going forward, or there's other kind of narrative popping up? I'm just really wondering what young people are thinking these days.
I think like it's
Practitioners.
interesting that
Mm.
because since 2022, Qilin has been Qilin was organizing those kind of like online seminar on and obviously also like offline seminar workshops on AI and the implication of it. It's kind of interesting. Like I think like if I can kind of like make an argument, like I am definitely seeing this kind of like proclaimed accelerationist. You're like right. You're seeing like effective accelerationist. You're seeing this kind of like E-stroke ACC type of people. In 706, in a sense, like okay, like the kind of like okay, let's embrace it. What's very interesting is right, I mean, we can obviously make a very macroscopic argument that okay, so your Chinese civilization, being intrinsically holistic in a sense of like seeing the relationship between human and the environment being very different. Okay, which is very different from the rationalistic West, where people put stuff in silos, where uh this kind of like imagination can goes on and on. What's interesting is in 706, we're kind of like observe a very different. I would say like I mean obviously like as a person that's kind of like deeply involved with this network myself, like uh I would kind of say yes. I mean it probably worries me a bit in the sense that because I am not necessarily an accelerationist. So like you're kind of like seeing like why the you're seeing like a lot of people are into this kind of like accelerationist narrative, but less about the skepticism. So like I think like this is kind of like the interesting thing, like because like, you would imagine in a place like Qingliu where like it has a very strong background in humanity. It has a very strong background in humanistic value. I mean, and proudly say, I mean, until today, right? Like, you kind of see like, okay, actually, people, are, I mean, also like people are like, I can't really say like people are helplessly, technologically optimistic, like, but you are seeing like something that's kind of different and not necessarily like critical. It make me, I mean, it make myself wonder as well, because like if you ask me like do I have a view, like I mean obviously like I have a view that like uh human intelligence or this and that, but hmm but I'm still very happy to do an AI event, or like talk to AI people. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Jared. Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you, Xiaoshan. Yes.
yeah, I just wanted to pop in with my own experience too. I'd say the people in my networks are split. Some of them are very concerned along the lines that I've expressed tonight, that the sort of report by the Civilization Research Institute is definitely from some folks pretty close in my network there. I think there's a lot of people who are kind of pragmatists about it, like I'd consider myself personally as somewhere in there. Probably like there's a couple AI tools that I do use occasionally, especially stuff for graphic design. It's able to really help me just do things faster and with higher quality than I would be able to otherwise. And so yeah, some folks I know will use them with a critical kind of mindset, like they aren't the people who are like trying to figure out every way they can implement AI in their lives because they're very conscious of the potential concerns and ecological downsides. But likewise, there's some people I know who are more on the kind of accelerationist, transhumanist side of things, who are like very excited to implement and innovate in the AI space. And typically, these people think that the problems with AI that do exist, they acknowledge at least some of them, will themselves be fixed by AI with sufficient innovation. That's a common perspective. So then they want to go all the faster and like with more focus into the AI development, which yeah, it's this arms race. It's this kind of grab for power. I mean, whoever can get those artificial general intelligence, if it's possible first, will be incredibly powerful for having done so. So they think they need to race there so that their competitors who they think are morally inferior don't do it first. So
Yeah, see who achieved the, artificial super intelligence first.
right, yeah.
That was like that was awesome. Yeah.
I see this I see this so resemblance, like under this whole progressive mode development, how we see development. It's always the same script. It was the same story when we look at environment. And then we used to say that if we developed, environmental problems will be solved. And then we talk about equality. I would talk about income equality, let's say, social equality. And then there's a narrative, the progressive narratives that if we develop enough and we're coming into the same narrative to technologies, the other technology, and then the previous never delivered the promise. And then it's just making me wonder even more how further is this technology leading us to, especially when Jerry just shared the Javian that's
And the Jevons paradox, yeah.
That Javan's paradise. Thank you. I will get used to this name, Javan's paradise. Paradox. And it's just, think about if we're being efficient, we'll never reduce our urge to use more. The urge of using more, and that almost is the it's a much deeper problem that we need to face. Yeah, well, thank you guys. And Lauren, hi Lauren, please.
All right, so I'll share in the chat here. There's a movie that recently came out. It's a Korean film, and I highly recommend this as a contemplative approach to AI. The film is an excellent sci-fi film, and what sci-fi stories are meant to do, which is to help you question and look at the broader context, right? So this story is, this film is called Wonderland, and I put a link into it, Wikipedia link, but you can find it anywhere. The basis of this story is that it's in the near future, and we have developed AI to the point where there are corporations that can create an AI of you that you can activate upon your death, so that there's an AI version of yourself after you die. And it just explores this different dynamics of how that affects human life. And if you're familiar with the Korean culture at all, you'll know that the role of mothers is very important. So this film focuses on several different mothers and grandmothers and how they interact. So one of the main characters is a mother who is dying and creates an AI version of herself to interact with her young daughter, who she's leaving behind, and explores like the human capacity to deal with it, right? As the young daughter doesn't know that her mom died and thinks that this is her real mother that she's talking to, who's gone to work in a foreign country. And then you know, all the relationships in the supporting characters, they're all giving you these little hints about the different ways that we're using AI. And some of them are deeply emotional, and some people are very shallow, right? So it's all coming back around to this focus that AI is a tool, and it's how we choose to use it. And the film doesn't give you any answers, of course. That's what's excellent about it. It's just stimulating the inquiry of how are we using this tool. So I highly recommend it. It's an excellent way to engage in this discussion. And I think this global human discussion that we need to have right now about how are we using this this tool, and if we can continue to see it as a tool that is based on our human creativity, right? And we need to really draw that very clear threshold between what's our innate human creativity, as Jared mentioned, that is sourcing the tool, and then how are we applying the tool rather than the tool using us, right? So much of modern culture is based on slavery, and you know, we think that our lives are, you know, have so much freedom now, and that slavery is a thing of the past, where it's just very hidden now. So we need to be really, really clear about how much, right, the resources are being extracted to going into developing the AI technology, but also how much of the human creativity is being enslaved in order to run the AI technology. So as Jared was saying, the actual, you know, artistic pieces that are being fed into this, but also the human work hours. I mean, it's becoming a hidden slavery of people working in the tech industry to actually program all of this. So again, drawing this really clear threshold between what is the freedom that this tool is giving us and how much of it is actually burdening us and creating more enslavement in our culture. So I feel that, I mean, this is the right question that we're asking, is if we're focusing on ecological civilization, then that gives us this guide of how we're using this tool. Because otherwise it's just becoming a luxury. Like you said, we're, you know, just engaging with Chat GPT. And, you know, sometimes it's just for fun, or we're creating these graphics just for the pleasure of it without realizing how much extraction, consumption that's burning up. I also put a link in the chat here of Zach Stein's paper that he shared at the Ian McGilchrist conference. It's called Opening the Eye of Value. And he addresses this pretty clearly. You know, he works with futurism and education, and he is super concerned about how people are using AI for education, right? And in this paper, he really focuses in on how there's a sociopathic element to a living person interacting with a chat GPT, right? Which it has, like you said, Jared, it has no context, it has no environment, it has no levels of complexity. There's no truth there. There's no core moral value. It's just an algorithm, and yet it seems real. And this is the definition of a sociopath. So is what Zach is arguing. So for us to recognize that we need to be really, really clear about this organic sense of value in order to draw the line between what's our innate human creativity and the beauty of our human lives, and how that's different than what's generated in AI. Thanks for letting me share all that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Zach, I think, is one of the most interesting voices in some of the AI discussions, at least in the English-speaking world that I've encountered. He's one of his major focuses is philosophy of education, and in that vein, he's had some very interesting reflections on just like different design choices we could be making. So right now, if like AI was going to be a tutor, it'd be like a phone app that's like this anthropomorphic like tutor you would engage, and it would be like a slave tutor. That's kind of how it would be modeled. And he said there's just all these concerns about how you could like just kind of develop a parasocial relationship with it, get like super attached to the technology, especially with the integration of VR as well, where you're just off in AI land. But yeah, his suggestion for a different design was, okay, instead of like having the phone and your AI tutors in there, what if it's like out in the world? So say you're on like a nature walk or something, instead of having your one AI that you talk to in with this like AR interface, like what if you could talk to the individual tree, and the tree itself would kind of have this AI interface that would give you information? And so it's not this single like slave tutor, but it's like bringing you into a deeper relationship with individual things in the world.
That's what's explored in the movie of Wonderland, of like, what if these AI models could actually connect us with a wider reality instead of a more narrow reality. So
yeah,
excellent.
that's great. Yeah, Vivian, let's definitely get some of these links. So I'll have access to the chat, and I can update our event page that will stay available on the Living Earth movement website with all these different documents and such that I've shared. Charles, do you have something? I see you're unmuted there.
Well, I was going to ask, sharing a couple of things. First, I want to thank you for a startling presentation. My experience to AI has been primarily One World Mighty Network, where the 200 participants are about Earth, uniting humanity, going Mother Earth, are looking at how to utilize it with transparency, integrity, for the good of all. And a couple of beautiful things that I could share in the process. And what I'm especially grateful for is that you've shared the link, the reports, and the work and the source documents, because I'm assuming that since you've shared them, I can make those available to that community as well, so that maybe we can wake up a little bit and be protected. But may I share those to chat in case they're useful?
Yeah, please.
Just wanted to make. Thank
you. All right, I need to get going shortly. Any final questions before we close for this evening? Comments? Mejun, yes.
So, hello, yeah. So I just thank you, Jerry and Xiaochuan, for your sharing and your fantastic presentation. You know, ChatGPT come out, last year, right? Everyone, still remember last year, everyone talking about ChatGPT, those kind of thing. Now in China, people talk about the government have a plan to, how do you say, to have those how do you say OK the 机器人怎么说英文 OK robot yeah to take care of the aged people yeah and so everyone talking about and I think so that this time and the topic is very important yeah because we really need more and more people to join this conversation dialogue to ask what is AI or AGI mean? Do we as a human being really need that? If without AI or AGI, human being is going to die or is going to have a better future. Yeah. So who will be the most beneficiary of AI? Yeah, so and you saw like now we see AI looks like a tool, right? Look like a tool, but there are some challenge the AI really bring in the front of us. Yeah, so then probably we will, as a human being, as a living being, probably we will lost some capacity, because we use AI. And I'm so glad Jerry, bring the energy use of AI, which I didn't know. That is horrible, right? Yeah. So, and so when we think of this kind of question, we need to pay closer attention. I just know, yeah, like AI is useful. Yes. Yeah. But should we limit the range of the usefulness? Yeah, should we control them? Because we are human being. AI is a machine, right? Can we use the AI as a machine to replace our, experience being? Yeah, so there is no simple solution. That's a challenge. Yeah, we need to face it. Yeah, and how we use it to build the ecological civilization, how we limit, yeah, its use. Yeah, I just say we definitely, as Jerry said, we need to have more conversation on this topic. Yeah, to have our own solution from the perspective of a process philosophy. Yeah, as least that is one kind of suggestion, right? Other people may have another, how do you say, suggestion or solution, which we also need to pay respect to them. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Actually, I would love to hear.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you, Mei Jun. I would
I
love to
know.
hear friends with very different opinions on this subjects as well. And maybe Xiaochuan, you should organize a conversation with your community next time, and we could get to know and hear more.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a
Thank
very
you.
interesting idea. Yeah, I will definitely gonna put some thoughts in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Charles has suggested the creator house related events for ecological dialogue, and that would be a wonderful
That would be great.
experiment.
Since it's an open source project, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And in a little heads up, and we're now creating dialogues and residency programs in a village in Fujian, where our friends Mingyang is now working with, and both me and Zhihe had visited, and it was quite interesting, and we will and keep you all informed, and perhaps we could do one of the events over there, finally offline, and meet each other. And with that
That'd be
thought,
great.
yeah, I think this is coming to an end of today's dialogue. As usual, time is always an illusion, but sometimes it becomes a limitation that's not enough. I wish to extend this conversation in our WeChat groups, and yeah, and come back more in the future conversations. And thanks again for Cobb Institute, Institute for Postmodern Development of China, and Living Earth Movement for your support on this dialogue. And I wish you all have a wonderful weekend, and then we see you next month. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Wonderful
everyone.
weekend. Okay, bye-bye. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you, Charles, Lauren.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all.